Daf Yomi, Tractate Zevachim, page 91b, top of the page, Tzadik Aleph, Amud Beis. Starting the Gemara, Amar Shmuel, L'divrei Rabbi Tarfon, Hamisnadiv Shem Koimtzoi, Ushiyarav Necholin, my timer, Amar Kra, Korban Mincha, Bilamed Shemitna Davin, Shemen, V'chi Mincha, Ma Mincha Komatza, Ushiyarav Necholin, Av Shemen, Shmuel says, according to the statement of Rabbi Tarfon, that oil may be sacrificed as a gift offering. In the case of one who contributes oil, very appropriate, tonight's the first night of Hanukkah, a little reference there. In the case of one who contributes oil, a priest removes a handful of the oil and sacrifices it on the altar, and its remainder is eaten by the priests. What is the reason for the ruling of Shmuel? The verse states, and when one brings a meal offering, Korban Mincha, Leviticus 2:1, the superfluous word Korban teaches that one may contribute oil, and its status is like that of a meal offering, just as with regard to a meal offering. The priest removes a handful, and its remainder is eaten. So too with regard to oil, the priest removes a handful and its remainder is eaten. Amar Rabbi Zero, Afananami Tanina Amar Rabbi Shimon, Imro Iso Shemen Shemischalek V'Azoro, Yata Tzarich Lish'ol Mahu, Ela Motar Rikike Minchois Yisrael V'Loik Shemen Shel Mitzoira Shein Mitna Davin. Rabbi Zera said that we learned this halakha in the Mishnah as well. Rabbi Shimon said, if you saw oil that is being distributed in the temple courtyard, you do not need to ask what it is. Rather, it is left over from the oil of the wafers, of the meal offerings of Israelites, or it is left over from the log of oil of a leper, as one does not contribute oil as a gift offering. Rabbi Zera learns by inference from the Mishnah that according to the one who says that one may contribute oil, it is distributed to the priest for consumption, and it is not sacrificed entirely. Amar le'abaye ema seifa im ro'iso shemen shnita al gabe yishim Iyata tzorich l'shoil mahu Ela moita rakike minchas kohanim Uminchas kohin Moshiach Shein misnedabin shemen Michlal Dileman de omar misnadev Kulon ishim Abaya kashir esho Da Rabbi Zera kashir seifo. Abaya said to Rabbi Zera, say the last clause of the Mishnah. If you saw oil that is placed on the flames of the altar, you do not need to ask what it is. Rather, it is left over from the oil of the wafers of the meal offering of priests, or it is left over from the meal offering of the anointed priest, as one does not contribute oil as a gift offering. Abaye learns by inference from the Mishnah that according to the one who says that one may contribute oil, it is burned in its entirety in the flames on the altar. This contradicts Shmuel's statement that, according to Rabbi Tarfon, only a handful of the oil is burned on the altar. The Gemara comments, for Abaye, the inference from the first clause of the Mishnah is difficult, while for Rabbi Zera, the inference from the last clause is difficult. Bishlam Rabbi Zera, Reisha B'Shiraim, Seifa B'Koimitz, Ela L'Baya Kasha, Tana Reisha To Seifa. The Gemara continues, granted, according to Rabbi Zera, the inference from the first clause that the oil is distributed for consumption by the priests can be explained as referring to the remainder of the oil, whereas the inference from the last clause that the oil is burned on the altar is referring to the handful removed from the oil. But according to Abaye, the contradictory inferences pose a difficulty. The Gemara answers, one cannot infer anything from the first clause as the Mishnah taught the first clause due to the last clause, that is, as the Tana of the Mishnah wishes to teach the last clause in a certain manner. He teaches the first clause in a similar style, despite the fact that one might come to an erroneous conclusion from the wording of the first clause. Bishlam Sevatani Mishum Reisho, Ela Reisha Mishum Sefa Mitani in Amri B'Maraba Tana Reisha Mishum Sefa. The Gemara asks, granted, a Tana may teach the last clause of the Mishnah due to the first clause, meaning a Tana might teach in a similar formulation to one he had already used, but would a Tana teach the first clause of a Mishnah due to the last clause? The Gemara answers yes. They say in the West, Eretz Yisrael, that a Tana taught the first clause due to the last clause. Tashema yayin k'divrei Rabbi Akiva lasafolim shemen k'divrei Rabbi Tarfon leishim mai lav midiyayin kula lesfolim shemen kula leishim midiyaya hadikisa. The Gemara cites a proof, coming here, a Braita. If one contributes wine according to the statement of Rabbi Akiva, then one may contribute wine that is poured into the basins adjacent to the corner of the altar. If one contributes oil according to the statement of Rabbi Tarfon, that one may contribute oil, it is burned in the flames of the altar. What, is it not possible to infer from the fact that the wine is poured in its entirety into the basins that the oil is likewise burned in its entirety in the flames of the altar, contrary to Shmuel's statement? The Gemara rejects this proof. Are the cases comparable? This case is as it is, and that case is as it is, meaning the donations of wine and the oil are separate cases, and the two statements of the Braita need not accord with each other. Amar Rav Papa Katanai Shemen lo yivchois miloik Rabbi Omer Shloishes Lugin b'may kamifli amura Rabbanon kamei Rav Papa Dun mina umina dun mina ve'oke be'asra. Rav Papa said Shmuel's statement is like one side of a dispute between Tanaim. As it is taught in the Braita, one who contributes oil should not bring less than a log. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi says 3 log. The Gemara asks, with regard to what principle do the first Tana and Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi disagree? The sages said this before Rav Papa. They disagree with regard to the nature of an inference by means of verbal analogy or juxtaposition. Is the secondary case equated to the primary case in all aspects in accordance with the exegetical principle, infer from it and again from it, or does the comparison extend only to one specific issue derived from the primary case in accordance with the principle, infer from it, but interpret the halacha according to its own place? Meaning, in all other aspects, the cases are not equated. Ika beinayhu derabanan sabri ma mincha misnadvin av shemen misnadvin rama uinam ma mincha lo shemen av kan lo shemen uma mincha kometzor shirei necholin av shemen kometzor shirei necholin. The Gemara explains that this is the difference between them, as the rabbis hold by the principle, infer from it and again from it. The Gemara explains that the application of this principle, just as a meal offering is contributed, so too oil is contributed, as inferred from the verse addressing the meal offering, and again one infers from this source. Just as a meal offering requires a log of oil, so too here an offering of oil alone must be a log of oil. And just as with regard to a meal offering, the priest removes a handful and its remainder is eaten, so too with regard to oil, the priest removes a handful and its remainder is eaten. V'idach min mincha ma mincha misnadvin av shemen misnadvin v'yoge basra kinesachim ma nesachim shloishes lugin av shemen shloish or shloisha lugin. It's in brackets as shlosha lugin uma nesachim kol lasfolin Av shemen kulan liishim, or kulo in brackets. And the other, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, holds by the principle infer from it, but interpret the halakha according to its own place. The Gemara explains that here too, when it infers from the case of a meal offering, just as a meal offering is contributed, so too oil is contributed. But with regard to all other aspects of this halakha, interpret the halakha according to its own place. And its status is like that of wine libations, which are similar to oil in that they are also poured onto the altar. Just as one contributes libations of 3 log, so too when one contributes oil, one contributes 3 log. And just as libations are poured in their entirety into the basin, so too the oil is burned in its entirety in the flames of the altar. Amrle Pabale Baye. Amrle Pabale Baye. Die, 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 die. Die, 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 die. Die, 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 die. Amrle Pabale Baye. Imi min Chamaisila Rabbi Dukuri Hamadun. Mina ela Rabbi Me'ezrach Gamala. Or Papa said to Abai, if Rabbi Yehuda Nasi cited the source of the gift offering of oil from the verse addressing the meal offering, he would not disagree with the rabbis, as everyone employs the principle of infer from it and gain from it. Rather, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi derives the gift offering from oil from a verse that deals with libations. All that are homeborn shall do these things after this manner, in presenting an offering made by fire. Numbers 15:13. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi derives from here that just as one may contribute wine libations, so too one may contribute oil. Therefore, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi compares oil to wine libations. Just as one contributes libations of 3 log, so too one contributes 3 log of oil. Amale Rabbi Yehuda berei de Rab Nosson Rapopo. Mimos Amrit Kachi Betanya Korban Mincha Belamish Misnad Min Shem Minchama Shlosh Lugin Uman Shemahat Leid Amash Shlosh Lugin Rebihi Vikoma Izila Mikoman Amar Le Itanya Tanya. Rav Huna son of Rav Natan said to Rav Papa, how can you say that? Meaning that according to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, the source of the gift offering of oil is not from the meal offering, but isn't Tana bright with regard to the verse, and when one brings a meal offering in Korban Mincha, Leviticus 2:1, that the superfluous word Korban teaches that one may contribute oil. The Brayta continues, and how much must one contribute? 3 log. The Gemara explains the question, and whom did you hear who says the gift offering of oil is 3 log? This is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, and yet he cites the source of the gift offering of oil from the word korban, which is referring to a meal offering. Rav Papa said to him, if this brisa is taught, it is taught, and I cannot take issue with it. Next, Amar Shmuel, Hamishnah devyayin maybe umizalfo al gabe haishim. My timer, Amar Kov yain takrif lenesechas yahin yisherech nichoech Lashem ve'akam. Shmuel says one who contributes wine brings it and sprinkles it on the flames of the altar. What is the reason for this? The verse states, and you shall present for the libation half a hin of wine for an offering made by fire of a pleasing aroma to the Lord. Numbers 15:10. The verse indicates that there is a type of wine libation which is an offering made by fire. The Gemara challenges, but he thereby extinguishes the fire on the altar. No, it's a huge fire and it's only a little bit of wine. The wine gets evaporated much. He doesn't extinguish it. I don't see why they say that. But anyway, what they're saying here is, but he thereby extinguishes, a perpetual fire, right? Leviticus 6 verse 6. A perpetual fire shall be kept burning on the altar, it shall not go out. Leviticus 6:6. The Gemara explains, extinguishing in partial manner is not called extinguishing. In other words, this act is not included in the prohibition. It's a huge fire. I don't see why it's extinguishing at all. If you have a huge fire on the altar and you pour a little bit of wine into it, the wine will just evaporate very quickly. It won't do anything to the fire. I mean, maybe what they mean it makes it go down a tiny bit. Anyway. Ini Rav Nachman Rav Balavu Moirin Gachal Mial Gam Mizbeach V'chibu Chayo D'Legayel Chai Iboy Seima Kibu D'Mitzvah Shani. The Gemara asks, is it so? But doesn't Rav Nachman say there? Rav Baravu says, one who takes down a coal from the altar, extinguishes it is liable for violation of prohibition, it shall not go out. So the question is, it's still partial, so why is he doing it? The Gemara answers, this statement is referring to a situation where there is only this coal in the altar, and therefore the fire is entirely extinguished. If you wish, say, instead, that even partial extinguishing is prohibited, extinguishing for the sake of a mitzvah, as in the case of sprinkling with wine on the altar, is different. It's permitted. Okay? I mean, you can't just put it out altogether, but if it's for a mitzvah, you can put it out a little bit. That's what he's saying. Tashima, Titania Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Titania Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, Klabe. Shenit Natoy Rabbi Litoim. Yochel Chabel Litoim. Amar Lo Yachbe. Shani Hasam, Efshar, Yesif Benata. The Gemara challenges coming here right to that Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov teaches. Since the Torah gave a mitzvah to remove the ashes of the offering of the altar, one might have thought that it is permitted to extinguish the coals so that they become ashes, and then to remove them. Therefore, you say he shall not extinguish, in accordance with the verse, it shall not go out. Although this is a case of extinguishing for the sake of a mitzvah, the Braita deems it prohibited. The Gemara explains, it is different there, as it is possible for the priest to sit and wait until some of the coals become ashes and then remove them. By contrast, with regard to wine, there is no alternative to sprinkling the wine on the fire, and therefore it is permitted. Tashima, Yayin Kedivrei Rabbi Kiva Lasvalim, Shem Kedivrei Tap Onishim, Ve'od Tanya Yayin Nesech, or in bracket Nesech Lasvalim. The Gemara challenges coming here a Braita that prohibits sprinkling wine on the fire of the altar. If one contributes wine, according to the statement of Rabbi Akiva, that one may contribute wine, it is poured into the basins on the altar. If one contributes oil, according to the statement of Rabbi Tarfon, that one may contribute oil, it is poured onto the flames of the altar. And it is furthermore taught in a Braita, the wine libation is poured into the basins. The Braita suggests, or perhaps, it is not so. Rather, it is poured onto the flames. Therefore, you say, he shall not extinguish. Loi Kashya, the Gemara answers, this is not difficult. Ha, Rabbi Yehuda, ha, Rabbi Shimon. Remember, Rabbi Shimon sevirole. The Amar Shmuel mechabin gecheles, jel mateches bereshus rabim. The Gemara answers this is not difficult, as that Braita is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that even an unintentional action, meaning a permitted action from which a prohibited action inadvertently ensues, is prohibited. And this statement of Shmuel is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, who maintains that a permitted action from which a prohibited action inadvertently ensues is permitted. The Gemara asks, is this to say that Shmuel holds in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon? But doesn't Shmuel say one may extinguish a piece of white-hot metal in a public thoroughfare on Shabbat so that the masses will not be injured by it?